Hello everybody, welcome back. Today I'm going to be sharing with you my go-to base routine specifically for natural lighting settings or events because I find that of course daytime and nighttime makeup is very different, but this is for when I want a little bit more coverage or glam than my everyday makeup routine and I want it to last a little bit longer. So I only have my morning skincare on. And for context, I have normal to dry skin, but in these winter months, it does get a little bit drier and like tighter after I wash my face. So I like to focus on really hydrating products. I don't like to do overly hydrating like serums and oils, especially for the daytime, or if I want my makeup to last a little bit longer because I know my foundation is pretty skincare focused, so I don't want to overdo it and make it slip around. If you do have dry skin as well, but notice some dry patches, I highly recommend these First Aid Beauty facial radiance pads. These are extremely gentle on the skin and give the perfect amount of micro exfoliation to create a very smooth surface for makeup. Once that is dried, I move on to the hydration prep for my makeup. I'm going to first use this Future Wise Slug Boost Hydrating Mist all over my face so that it provides a layer of moisture for the hyaluronic acid that I'm going to be using. This is the BYOMA Hydrating Serum. I love this stuff underneath makeup and it works that much better when you have some sort of water or spray on your skin. I also love using the Morphe Continuous Setting Mist for this step, the Milani or the Charlotte Tilbury setting sprays. Now let's move on to the makeup portion. When I first started wearing a bit more makeup, especially like foundation out, I was always very self-conscious on how it was looking. Does it look too cakey? Is it settling in my like nose creases? Does it even match my neck? All of these are very valid concerns and almost insecurities, but you have to realize that makeup is going to look like makeup. Yes, there are techniques that are going to make it look as natural and flawless as possible, but you have to realize that makeup is not going to look like it does on social media as it does in person when you're talking to someone this close without a handheld light beaming in front of them, because that blows out all texture and all everything. Don't align your talent with what you see online or your routine with what you see online because it's just not the same. And I want to bring that awareness, especially on my channel, because I was always super, again, self-conscious in that respect. And that's why I'm also filming in front of my window and try to for most of my tutorials with natural lighting so that you can really get up close. I'm going to do so also after the foundation and really see the skin texture because that's just how it is. So with that being said, I sometimes do like to do a full coverage or full face of foundation, and sometimes I do like to use a underpainting technique. I highly recommend being extremely patient with finding your correct foundation shade because no matter how good a formula is, if the color does not suit you, it will look worse than if you were to pick the wrong texture of foundation. All right, I'm going to zoom you in. Before we actually move on to the foundation, I'm going to be underpainting and starting off with some sort of contour slash bronzer. I like to use something that has a bit more saturation and pigment to it versus something really sheer like the Makeup by Mario Skin Enhancer that's like in the compact. So I'm going to take this RCMA palette. I love the way this blends into the skin and wears and photographs. This is a cream formula, so you got to really work it in first on the back of your hand to warm it up, and it's going to look really warm on my skin, but when we go over it with the foundation, it's going to slightly neutralize it, so it's going to look the most natural. And then my favorite brush of all time, this is the Makeup by Mario F4 brush. I'm going to start off with this small side so that I can really concentrate the product, and starting from the top of my ear going downwards, and as you can see, this is quite orange, but it is going to be neutralized from the foundation. This is what the RCMA looks like all over the skin. I'm going to add the tiniest bit of contour and shadow with my e.l.f. Tan Halo Glow Beauty Wand. This is extremely dark, so I know it's going to just do the trick. I'm going to use my Morphe 2 brush, and once again depositing that first on my palette and really just focusing it right here underneath the cheekbone. It's going to look much more natural once again once we go in with the foundation on top. But as you can see, the contrast of the color is contributing to that shadow look right there versus just like the bronze all over. But now we have the majority of the warmth distributed on our skin, and now I want to go in with some sort of correction. i.e. our concealer. So I'm going to use the MAC Pro Longwear Concealer. And this is in the shade NC30. Once again, I'm going to deposit it on the palette, thin it out with my finger, and then I'm sure you've also heard of this technique slash tip on TikTok and Instagram, but it's something that I love to utilize on my clients as well. And that's applying concealer a little bit lower than your actual under eye bag, not all the way up towards the lash line, to prevent cakiness and prolong the creasing period. So starting right here, almost by the bridge of the nose, and I'm using my finger so that it really applies it in an even layer and all the product with its fullest coverage. Now you have to realize the difference between thin layers and too little of product. If your makeup is not looking or settling the way you want it to, you're like, why does it look so dry, patchy? You might not be using enough, so don't be afraid to go in with a little bit more, but don't glob on the product. And I love to keep a paper towel nearby and clean off my brush between each step. And now when I go in with blending my concealer, I'm blending it upwards towards the lash line, correcting the discoloration under the eyes while maintaining the coverage. All right, now time for the foundation. I have it here on my metal palette, and this is the biggest tip and technique that I would recommend you implementing into your routine, especially if you find that your makeup doesn't blend very easily on your skin, is to take it either on the palette or on the back of your hand and always spread it out into a thin layer so that when you pick it up with the brush, it's picking it up in an even layer here as well, which is going to apply evenly on your skin. So pick it up, press it into the brush, and then very lightly start buffing it onto the skin. And as I have less product on the brush, I'm gonna go over it, but very lightly. I'm going to add the tiniest bit of brightness underneath my eye with a lighter concealer. This is one of my favorite concealer brushes. This is the Flower Beauty one. I think it's $6. And I like to direct this lighter concealer at more of an angle so it's consistent with the eyeshadow or eyeliner and the contour and blush that I'm going to be applying afterwards. But even for the under eye, as you can see, I'm using pressing motions. Now I'm going to move on to my favorite product. This is the Makeup by Mario Pale Petal Soft Pop Blush Stick. These are so good, and I never go in directly with the stick on my face. I always warm it up on the back of my hand first, once again in that even layer, and then clean off my brush on the paper towel and pick it up with the smaller side first so I get a more concentrated amount of product. It's quite dark. So sorry. And then I'm going to start right here, almost underneath the eye. And then as I have less product, blending it up by the temples. Now for powder, I'm going to use a mixture of the Laura Mercier Honey and Huda Beauty Cupcake powder. And then directly going in with my Morphe and Ariel A14 brush, looking all the way up and pressing motions back and forth so that you're really depositing the powder in every crease and around the nose. And then as I get right here by the cheek area, because I want to maintain the glowiness, I'm just going to feather over it lightly. And then take whatever is left right here by the jawline. Set this cream contour and bronzer, and this is what's really going to help maintain its longevity, but also pop in photos. I'm gonna go in with my favorite NARS Laguna bronzer and the Morphe and Ariel A58 brush. With my powders and with my creams, I always pick it up and then press it into the bristles. And because we didn't set this area entirely with like a full layer of powder, I want to be very careful not to apply too much. Because it is tacky, it's going to be more susceptible into grabbing on the product and making it look muddy. So start by pressing it there and then very lightly buffing it. This is a bit closer so that you can see what it really looks like. I'm going to clean off my brows a bit with an alcohol wipe. If you like to do your brows after your base and find that your brow products don't stick on, try this technique. I learned it from Nikki Makeup on Instagram, in one of her master classes, and it has made such a difference. Next, I'm going to go in with the tiniest bit of this Pillow Talk highlight from Charlotte Tilbury and concentrate it right on the tops of the cheekbones. The way these products catch light is unmatched. Keeping with like the cream texture so that it brings back that glow to the skin, I'm going to use a bit more of Dusty Rose, this time on a beauty blender. And pick it up with the butt of the beauty blender and just tap it. And yes, this is over powder, but you want to be very careful that you're using thin layers and very light pressing motions. Right, and last but not least, if I had more of this product, I would spray it as my last layer, but it's all out. This is the Makeup Revolution Super Fix Super Hold Misting Spray. I love this. I'm gonna go finish off my lips and I will be right back. All right, this is my go-to base routine all complete. I hope you enjoyed it and hopefully you got some helpful techniques, tips, product recommendations to implement into your own. But keep in mind, this is not the only or the right way, because whatever works for you, whether that's more product or less product, do whatever makes you feel comfortable. But I just wanted to share what has worked for me and hopefully it could help someone out. So thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed today's video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel down below. And I will see you on the next one. Bye.